Welcome back into TCU Frogs today. Post-game live, a 55-24 win over Oklahoma. Boys, let's go ahead and get into this game. Let's break it down. First off, let's talk about the stats for the game. You had some interesting yardage on the offense. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean the offense with 668 yards, through both the air and ground, pretty balanced game there. And then to hold Oklahoma to only 355 yards, even with all the ground game there, just kind of as they ran the game
Absolutely.
out, really impressive. Obviously, a really impressive effort today.
Absolutely. And something that we may need to discuss, there might be a little bit to talk about with the officials.
Oh yeah,
You said a little bit ago that it kind of felt like playing against 12.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to dive into that. I just first want to get into the what we kind of saw on the field first, and then get into those guys because I'll tell you what. We talked early, Marshall, about the offense keeping their foot on the gas,
Yeah.
and they certainly did that. And I'll look at the first half. At the end of the first half was a great example to me, guys. Right when you
Absolutely.
look at the fact that they were up big, they could have just went into the locker room
Yeah.
and. While they didn't score points during that time, the fact that they were taking shots during the time
Yeah.
and staying aggressive really told the story for me.
That Hail Mary was a zero risk play, but you got to set yourself up for that the possibility of,
Right.
and to be able to double dip, even if you don't receive the ball in the second half, but to score before the half. That's what good teams do. That's what veteran teams do. The best in the
Absolutely.
NFL, the best in college. They try to get points before half.
You know, in dissecting the Frogs, me and you, Coach Bowden, we talk a lot about setting the tone for a game. And I think for them, that was definitely one of those setting the tone moments. It definitely came for them early.
Right, absolutely. I know we've been critical, although the offense has been successful in the first three games. We've been critical about the consistency, right? Seeing the consistency, and today they just kept full throttle the entire game.
Absolutely.
That's what we look for. It's what we talked about in pregame, and for them to come out there and do that for 4 quarters, just a lot of fun to watch, for sure. And then when you flip it over to the defensive side, guys, look, we knew they have to throw a lot at this Oklahoma offense.
Sure.
But the fact that they were bringing the fourth defender a lot. To kind of go from an odd front to create a more of an even look after post snap, to do those things against this offense and have the success they did. And I'll tell you, just from a casual observer, you looked out there. They played with a ton of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, on
Absolutely.
top of all the technical things, they were flying to the football and they were celebrating success, and that just feeds off one another, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's a sin to try to call this defense a bend but don't break.
Yep.
They can be an attacking defense when they want to be, and you saw guys flying around. You saw them playing with toughness, pushing it to the edge. Now, it caused for an ejection, but you don't blame a guy for going full speed. It's obvious these guys are hungry. They're ready to prove something out there today, and they took it to Oklahoma from the beginning.
And after SMU last week in their presser post-game, defensive coordinator Joe Gillespie, he was talking about how important it was to see D. Winters and Nook Bradford as leaders on the defense. Where do you think you guys saw them today?
Yeah, I think that there were leaders not only in their play but in the communication. I thought they had cleaned that stuff up. At least from watching from up top, you saw that they were in sync. Their assignment alignment correct. Again, you have to go back and look at the film, and I'm sure there's things that you always want to clean up.
Sure.
But just off the cuff, I think the leadership really showed in the communication, and were able to give Oklahoma fits and everything they're going to
Absolutely.
throw at them. So. I think that shined through there, and I think that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing more and more guys step up and comfortable being leaders, right? And it can happen in the back end like that, Maggie. Like you said, Joe Gillespie brought it up. I think he brought it up for a reason, because you want those guys in the back half to set the tone, kind of set the umbrella of the defense, and that really was critical today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about those referees now, let's go ahead and get into
You
them.
couldn't wait. Couldn't wait.
I've got to. I mean, there were a couple of calls, obviously. I mean, the first one, the most obvious one, I think, is the fair catch signal. What did you guys see?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I didn't see. I didn't see a fair
Yeah.
catch signal at all. I mean, went back and looked at it, right?
That rule has been kind of deciphered over the last few years. There's a gray area they try to erase by telling players, hey, any movement you make that looks like any arms in the air, they're going to err on the side of caution, call a fair catch. He wasn't even close.
I
He wasn't
don't
even
think I
close.
saw any
And not only was he not even close, he took off with the ball as if none of that happened, and they blew it dead, and it just was beyond all of us. And that was just a really egregious error.
Yeah, it was. And it was tough because his hands didn't even go above. I barely went above his waist.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I look for, because I went back and looked at the replay. A lot of times it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the punt return necessarily that makes the fair catch signal, right? Anybody on the field as part of the receiving team. If they put up a fair catch signal, then that would qualify for Darius Davis as well. But that didn't happen, right? So I think they know they got that one wrong. Sometimes that happens, but how they got that one wrong, I don't know. And then coming off the heels of the non-defensive, the DPI, the defensive pass interference call that didn't get called, that, my goodness.
I mean, the fact that normally level Sonny Dykes was just demonstrative on the sideline. He's protecting his guys. He's trying to figure out what happened. What did I miss? We all saw what we thought we saw. And for the referees to miss that one, the fair catch, and then some of these late hits and dirty hits out of bounds. Not a great day from the referees. We don't want to harp on them too bad, but that stuff can determine games in this very tightly contested Big 12.
Well, I can tell you as a guy who coached, I do want to harp on it. Those guys drive me crazy. But one of the things that Coach, you brought up Coach Dykes and his involvement in this, he got off of the back, he got onto the back judge, rightfully so, and then the side judge there on the deep side got into him. But then on top of it, he called a timeout, and the only reason he called a timeout
just to chew him out.
That's
right.
He could get that white hat over and get into him about it. And I think that's important, Marshall. You talked about defending your team, which is extremely important. But also, look down the line, if there's a 50-50 call, and you let it be known that they made a mistake, then maybe you get it to lean in your favor. Sure. So I think that was a smart call there to take the timeout, burn the timeout in the second half. In the first half at that time. And then to be able to give it to him, so you may get the call down the road.
And to see Dykes talk about his players like that is something that we've increasingly seen in this past couple of weeks. With starting with that Max Duggan comment about coaching him like he's his own son, hoping his sons would grow up like that, and then to see him fight for these players like that in the middle of a game, I think it was really important for TCU fans to see. We're
seeing the development of what the culture that we're all hearing about play out in person. The biggest game of the year. An incredible result, but that result is obviously being built on the backs at practice in meeting rooms.
It wasn't luck.
It was not luck. These guys have been putting it together.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about in the pregame show, when you have your players back and you're all about your players, good things happen, culture happens, and culture stays strong. Yep. And that's even in moments of adversity. And for them, it was in adversity because they weren't getting the calls that they deserved.
Right.
And so for him to go and protect his players in that time, I think that sends just even a bigger message and starts to really solidify that culture here. And you get a win like this against a team you hadn't beaten since 2014 convincingly. I mean, right from the start. Right. You talked about, Marshall, I know you looked at it. They said about when Gabriel went down and all those things. At that point, though, right, the score at that point,
it was 34-10.
Right.
So it was a runaway at that point.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a tough hit. Hodges he's making a play. He's playing fast. You'd like him to ease up a little bit, but he's playing hard. He's playing tough. I don't think there's any malice in that hit. It looks rough, and you hope for the best for Dylan Gabriel, but that game was getting out of hand as it was. TCU started from the jump on offense and defense. We were moving the ball. We were dominating the game. So there's going to be arguments made about that changed the tide. I don't think that changed the tide. I think that kept the tide going into shore, for lack of a better pun. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the game goes. And TCU was dominating at that point.
No, I agree. And on that play specifically, the quarterback sliding, right? It's last minute slide. It's a bang bang play. So to me, it's not like an egregious dirty play.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that stuff happens. Yeah. I think it was the right call still. But I don't think it was intentional by any means. And that stuff's happened. But what it did, though, I thought that was really neat. So you get Hodge out of the game. Now you have to do kind of a little shuffling of the linebackers. Sure. Marcel Brooks, who's been out with an injury, he had a rib injury. This is the first game back. He slides into Johnny Hodges' place as the weak outside linebacker in that stack. Johnny Hodges moves to the middle, right? I think we're going to hear from him later on. But it allowed those guys to get some reps in some different spots, right, and some quality reps, still win the game convincingly. I think really they made a positive out of a tough situation.
We talk a lot about culture, like we were just talking about, and I think that it just shows how much this TCU football team has this next man up kind of culture going on within their team.
Right. No, you're exactly right. So there's gonna be more of this when we come back. I think I'd really like to dive into the defense, all right? We got to get into that.
Absolutely.
And we've talked a little bit about the offense, but when we return to Frogs Today at frogstoday.com post-game show, please stay tuned. We'll talk a little bit more about that pretty impressive TCU defense.
Trapper Beefs. One-upping.
I love Old Trapper. I love how tender it is. Don't forget the wood smoke flavor. Savory beef. Quality ingredients. I'm their biggest fan.
Old Trapper, what's your beef?
Hub Fort Worth family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse. The Hub Fort Worth family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort Worth.
Welcome back to Frogs Today post-game show live. We're talking about that 55-24 win over Oklahoma. Marshall, I want to go ahead and ask you first off, going to be in the hot seat first. At that first quarter mark, we saw them holding Oklahoma to 10 points. Who do you think was the biggest contributor for that?
I mean, we talked about it pregame about this offense from Oklahoma can put up points. Dylan Gabriel's a plenty capable quarterback, but you need to shut down the run. And I will give the props that early on to the defensive line. They shut down the running lanes. They made things really, really tough for them. They made them have to bounce runs, and the defense was swarming and tackling. And eventually they took a couple shots, but by then our DBs were tuned in, dialed in, and it starts in the middle. It starts up front. So I give the D-line props for starting us well, and that all that momentum carried into the next quarter, the next half, and the rest of the game.
And we talked a lot about, the coaches after Oklahoma's game last week against K-State talked a lot about not being able to convert on third down. What did you think you saw from them today? And do you think it was their offense or do you think it was our defense?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both, but I also think the defense for TCU put them in bad third down situations, right? Because obviously it's a much bigger conversion percentage when you're talking 3rd and 5 and under.
Absolutely.
So you start putting them in 3rd and long situations. So it's really, to me, it's a lot of that had to do with what they were doing on 1st and 2nd down, right? To put them in those situations. And then, Marshall talked about the defensive line. But I want to point out, Cameron Williams, the freshman, the true freshman. He played at Colorado, as we know, the storyline then. He was 17 years old, and his size, and for him to have, because they're not very deep there right now.
Yeah.
Got a couple injuries in the front, and so he played a lot of snaps. And to see him, chase down things, run down, flatten out down the line as the ball bounced. Marshall, you talked about getting that ball to bounce, and you're right. And then you saw the defensive line, the 3 defensive linemen, getting flat down the line, making plays from behind. Yeah. Extremely impressive there. I thought that the secondary played their best game out of the 4 games we've seen so
Absolutely.
far. For them to, these are some really talented Oklahoma
it's
receivers.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, absolutely right. And known throughout the nation, and they shut them down. I mean, they did an amazing job. In Oklahoma, took shots, went after them, thought they had the better players, and for them to get in some one-on-one situations and to come out, on top of that, I thought was really telling and really encouraging moving forward for the rest, going the rest of the way.
And transitioning to talk about those safeties, Travius, Hodges, Tomlinson. That guy was defending like his life depended on it today. He was all over Theo East Jr. and a bunch of other talented receivers. Where do you think you've seen growth from him this season?
Well, I think from confidence. I think last weekend he had some questions. Going back to those referees, right? Had some questionable defensive pass interference calls. But, the cool thing, we listened to Josh Newton talked about last week. He said he went right to him. And Josh Newton's been a guy who transferred in, has been a leader since the day he arrived on campus. Really hard thing to do for a senior transfer to come in. But he went right to Tomlinson and said, hey, listen, you're a dog. You got this, and picked him up. And you're starting to – we keep talking about this, Maggie and Marshall, but you're seeing this at every position now where you've got – senior leadership. Heck, you got young guys leading. That those moments are so critical when a guy's confidence can go down in the tubes when you have a teammate. Look, all the credit to the coaches for setting the culture, but a lot of times you don't want to hear from the coach in that situation, right? You need one of your buddies to come in and say, "Look, you're good, you got this." And I think from a confidence standpoint, that helped him out. He showed in the second half of that SMU game, and then for coming here for that to carry over, I just really impressed with Tomlinson, but also with the leadership from that group, and then really just from groups throughout the team.
These are such significant building blocks from developing leadership and guys trusting each other. This stuff you can't just look past because it's what takes you to a championship level. And we're seeing shades of it all over every position group. And you're like, wow, who is this team? These guys they're spreading their wings. They're showing their personality. And at the end of the day, it's player led. These guys are taking each other, holding each other accountable. They're lifting each other up when things aren't great. And again, they're celebrating wins like this together. And this is the stuff, listen, we're building something right here. We're all kind of trying to walk that line between overexcitement and, staying, level, even keel. But we all see it. Everyone feels it. The fans felt it today. Something special is developing right now.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to get overexcited with a win like this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's Oklahoma.
Maybe I need to unhitch the wagon a little bit, kind of let go. Yeah.
But I think, not only do you beat them, but to beat them like this, and the game was essentially all but over in the first half. And nobody expected that, right? We all talked in the pregame, look, I think the TCU's pretty good team. I think they're for real. And I think they have a chance, and they will win today, even though they were the underdogs. Yeah. But to come out and just dominate like this, I don't think there's anybody that
and if I can interject, to me, the word I use is physicality. It bled over a little bit to the penalties and some of the back and forth. They had a guy who was obvious targeting or pass interference as a retaliation, but TCU was, for lack of a better term, bullying Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
They were taking chances to dominate their man as a group, and they were letting them know. And this is a confidence that has been built and that we're seeing now out in the open that you can tell from behind the scenes they're earning it. They're earning it with each other within the locker room from their coaches, and they're letting it just fly out in the field. And to go and do to Oklahoma what we just did, it can't be, it can't be overstated. It really can't.
No.
And it was impressive to see. It was just so different of a feeling that we were all observing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And I think defensively, when we stay on that for a second, what you're talking about is so right, and it's palpable on the field on defense. It's almost like sharks in the water with blood, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have some success, and I don't care what anybody says, there's been books written about this and all this stuff, but momentum is a real thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start having plays and go back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of celebrating success and people getting fired up from one another, they're just feeding off each other. Now the next guy wants to make a play, and it just keeps going, and that builds and builds as a defense. And I think that's something that carried over in this game. But I also think, if they keep that up, that's something they can carry out throughout the season, honestly. It's just that feeding frenzy. It was fun.
And we talked a lot about culture, and we're going to talk more about that offensive culture in a couple of minutes. But I think what we really need to touch on is that it's not just a culture change. It's almost like a culture shock. This team has come to life under this new coaching staff. And, we see it through the fans. They said it was a sold-out game. I kid you not. Every single seat was filled today.
Yeah, it was much different than what we saw last week. The last week's sellout. But to see that, to see the student section, how fired up they
Props
were.
to the student section.
That's right. Because not only did
they
they show up, they showed up and they were engaged.
Stayed, they were engaged.
Yeah,
it was great to see.
So, no, it sure was. So I think you're right that what you're talking about, Maggie, and that culture, that goes from the coaches to the team to everybody involved in the team, to the students, to the community, right? It just builds, and people feed off that stuff. And that's why culture is so important, right? For those people talk about they don't have one, well, everybody has one. If you don't think you do and you're not intentional, it's probably a bad one.
It's just bad.
That's right, yeah. So, I think that's really important that they've been very intentional about that since day one, and you're starting to see that pay off. You're exactly right.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And when we get back from break, let's go ahead and get right into that offense.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com. Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Trapper Beefs. One upping.
I love Old Trapper. I love how tender it is. Don't forget the wood smoke flavor, savory beef, quality ingredients. I'm their biggest fan.
Old Trapper. What's your beef?
The Hub Fort Worth family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort Worth.
Welcome back to Frogs Today live post-game show here at the Courtside Club in Amon G. Carter Stadium. TCU coming off that huge 55-24 win over the Sooners. Let's keep the conversation going. And today, let's go ahead and switch over to that offense. I know you want to talk about him, Kendre Miller. I mean, he is that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy
him.
that had 13 carries for 136 yards. I mean, over 10 yards a carry. So he just goes to increase that yards per carry average that he was once leading the country in. I think probably coming out of today, that'll still be the case.
Yeah.
Marshall, you talked about in the pregame about him running tough and breaking tackles. Today, I lost count. Honestly, I was trying to take a little tally mark of all the tackles he broke. I'm excited to go back on that film and watch that stuff. Yeah. But my goodness, he was running through tackles. His legs were like pistons. I mean, just guys bouncing off of him, high knees, running through guys, lowering his shoulder. Man, that was fun. I mean, just fun to watch him run the ball.
He's shifty.
He's shifty, but he's also a punishing runner. He makes you tackle with form.
Yes.
And these guys, they're diving, their heads were down. He's making you pay for that. And then, he can run away from you. He can run over you. He can run around you.
He can hop.
He's just super talented, and he makes those guys stay honest. And they just couldn't keep up with him today. They couldn't keep up with the whole offense, but they could not certainly keep up with Kendre Miller.
Yeah, and I thought the cool thing, going in, we had done some things on Facing the Frogs and said, look, the plan against this group is going to make, the way the running backs are playing, right, with DeMarcado and Kendre Miller right now, just playing lights out. On all that read game, so that run read game that they showed, they're going to force the hand and make Max Duggan pull it and say, okay, hey, Max Duggan, you beat us with their legs.
Yep.
Well, that didn't work out.
He can.
Well, yeah, I mean, having down his 5 carries
for
116 yards. But man, he showed the type of deceptive speed he has.
Yeah.
He showed how tough and gritty he is.
There's no deceptive speed. It's just speed. Max Duggan is fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's call it fast.
Yes, I agree.
Fast.
I agree. And we may get him join us later on, and so I want to make sure that I correct it. Right directly to him that he is fast. I mean, you're right. I mean, you're exactly right though, because if you can outrun and not get walked by the speed that was out there for Oklahoma, then you're legitimately fast. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, to see how tough he runs, again, that attitude coming from your quarterback in the run game.
There's a shot on camera of later in the fourth quarter if he's just blood all the way down his forearm, and I love it. The lineman, I love my quarterback just looking at the blood like, all right, what is this? Wrap it up, let's go.
Sure.
And I guarantee everybody's feeding off that. They're making sure he's okay, but that gets everybody going. You're seeing how tough he's running, how he's leading the team. And, again, we talked about it pregame. In a weird situation to start the season with two quarterbacks who are sharing time. We didn't know if we'd see Chandler Morris today. Max Duggan had to just be a professional, and he's continued to impress me with how much he's mature. He was mature before, coach's son and all that, but he's going above and beyond by just performing, doing what he's supposed to do, being a great teammate. Guys talk about him with flying colors. It's just so impressive.
And last week in the presser post-game against SMU, he talked about how Coach Dykes told them they need to block out all the noise about this rivalry that's going on with SMU and just focus on the game ahead of them. Now, Max Duggan saying that, do you think that might have been a little bit about this quarterback controversy that we've been talking about with the team?
Yeah, I do, and really it put things to bed today, right? With
Absolutely.
and we playing at this level. We talked about him in the run game,
Mm-hmm.
but in the pass game, he was 23 of 32 for 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. So to do things both through the air and on the ground, I mean, this is a guy who's doing it all right now. And then last week, had the 5 sacks.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit misleading because I think a couple times he was hanging on to the football a little bit longer just because he had been criticized for throwing it into coverage, sometimes and late. And so he held on to it. And it took some sacks. He had to clean that up. And today he did, right? He got out of there and in situations, instead of trying to force something, just said, threw it out of bounds, lived to see another down, lived to see another play. And that's leading the offense. That's running the show.
Yeah.
And with all the athletes out there, guys, right, that they have on offense, that's really his job. His job is to be a distributor, right? Obviously, he can run the ball himself if need be, and then just run the show, run the operation, and make sure that you're just being smart and heady.
Yeah.
And he certainly showed that today.
Absolutely.
I have it here, just playing mistake-free football. The game manager moniker gets a little bit of negativity, a negative connotation, but that's just an attribute. To be a game manager, a good game manager, to me, is an incredible thing to be bestowed upon. Doesn't mean you can't run. Doesn't mean you can't pass. It means you're a decision maker. You're keeping your team in the best position to make great decisions and make good plays. You're staying ahead of the change. You're holding on to the ball. You're encouraging other guys to make sure they're having ball security, and Max is doing that. I mean, to throw for that many yards, run for that many yards, no fumbles, no weird things, no just forcing the issue. The game came to him, and we're seeing such a drastic step up from the last 2 years. A guy who had almost 30 starts coming into this season, you're like, all right, he's seasoned. Maybe we've seen what we're going to see from him, but no, he's taken another step. Coach Dykes and their staff have leaned into him. He's, listen, he lost the job, if we want to call it that, and he's continued to work, continued to improve his game, and he's showing out now against Oklahoma, of all people.
Well, I think you're exactly right, Marshall, about saying him being a game manager is not an insult because, look, in today's world, there's a lot of quarterbacks that look great in a pair of shorts, right? They go out there, it's, in California, Southern California, where there's a lot of quarterbacks, and they get out in a T-shirt and shorts, and they spin it left and right, and everyone's like, wow, he's so good. Okay, that's great until you've got some defensive linemen running at you, trying to take your head off.
Yeah.
And you've got to make plays. You've got to make decisions under pressure. And you got 3.4 seconds to get rid of the ball. All those things, right? That's when you can see it. And you can only simulate that in a game. And Max has obviously had the opportunity. He sees that. He's taking care of it and maximize that opportunity. And so I think you're spot on when you talk about being a manager and making sure that, that's not looked at as a negative thing anymore, right? That's a guy that's exactly your job, and he's doing his job at a high level.
Absolutely.
And a lot of receivers were getting in on that action today. Who do you think you saw the best performance from today?
Well, I thought, Savion Williams had another, huge game.
He's another one of those, he's that guy.
That's right. And they went right at him. I mean, those 2 plays early on in the game in the first quarter, when they took 2 shots in the end zone, the second one ended up being a touchdown for Savion. That said to me, like, hey, look, we don't care who you are. We don't care what your jersey says. We don't care how many stars your cornerbacks are or whatever. We think we have really good players, too, on the outside in Quentin Johnson and Savion Williams. And we're going to come right at you. And it obviously paid off. And I think that attitude of just being aggressive and being confident in your own players just carries over into a lot of things for that offense.
We talked about it earlier in the season, just going through the depth chart, how much size we have at the skill position. And we're waiting to see when you're going to use that size. The size doesn't mean anything if you don't give these guys opportunities. Well, Max Duggan's seeing one-on-one coverage, and he's like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot. These are jump balls. It's either you get the ball or no one gets the ball. And these guys are like loving it. Hey, let me go give me a chance. Savion Williams gets a snag. We're getting Quentin more. I mean, these guys have size that comes back to recruiting, but it's size that we can now use. It's size that's not just good on a piece of paper on a depth chart. It's size that makes a difference in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when Max said, look, my job is to give them a chance to get the ball, right? What he means obviously by that is making sure that, he's not just dropping the ball out of bounds. And he knows, look, I've got a talented group of receivers. Put it somewhere. And he said, I thought it was great. He articulated it beautifully last week. He said, when I put the ball up there, it's not a 50-50 ball, right? He's like, our guys are too good. I put it up there. I think we're getting it.
I love that. Down with it.
Yeah, me too. And so, that confidence, you can see it. You're right. It works both ways from his receivers right now to the quarterback, and then vice versa. So, I think it's been really impressive to watch, and you can see that confidence just continue to build for all those guys.
And I think one of my favorite things about this TCU receiver core is that even if you're going to double team Quentin Johnson, it's okay because there are so many other guys who are playmakers on this team. And right now, we're going to go ahead and end this conversation about the offense. We're going to go ahead and send it over to that Sonny Dykes live press conference going on right now.
All right. First of all, I want to start just by saying, I'm sorry to see that they had a couple of injuries. Obviously, all of our thoughts go out to Damon Harmon. Hope he's okay. Don't really know exactly what happened, but you don't ever want to see that. Same thing with Dylan, Gabriel. I hated the way that thing played out. Dylan's such a good player, and I know Jamoy certainly didn't intend for that to happen. I know Jamoy was upset about it. It's just unfortunately one of those things that happened. So, my thoughts are with those guys, and I hope they're both back quickly and playing for Oklahoma. Just really proud of our effort today. I thought the guys were really ready to play. I thought we had a good week of practice. It seemed to me that they were really dialed in and focused, and we had a great game plan on both sides of the ball. Thought we played really, really well defensively. I mean, that's a very explosive offense, and we limited their big plays. And then had a bunch of big plays on offense. I mean, that's the formula for us right now. Is if we can make big plays and take care of the ball, then good things are going to happen for us. Really thought Max played well. It seemed like he was really calm. Again, made good decisions. Was really proud of kind of how he played. To me, I thought we really played well up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Thought the defensive front really played well. It's a good offensive line at Oklahoma. That's always how they build their program. And thought that we held up really well up front defensively. And then I thought the offensive line certainly played the best football they played. It gave us an opportunity to get the ball down the field to some guys who can make big plays, and it was good to see those guys do that. And so, we got off to a great start, and that certainly makes things easier when you do that. We gained some confidence, and got into a rhythm, certainly offensively in the first half, and never really got that back in the second half. There was just a lot of things that were going on, but was able to close it out and feel good about our guys' effort, and always good to get one.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Welcome back into Frogs Today live post-game show. Our first player guest here with us right now, Steve Avila. Steve, let me ask you, has it hit you yet that you beat Oklahoma 55-24?
It hasn't yet. I'm not sure why. I'm sure it'll hit tomorrow, though. Yeah, a lot of us are excited about it. I mean, I walked in the locker room, everybody was pumped up. But I'm sure once my head hits the bed, man, it's going to
it's like a what just happened moment.
Yeah, man. I mean, we just dominated. That's plain and simple. I mean, what was the score?
55-24.
24. I mean, that's something that, we need to get used to. And that's something I feel like we haven't done in a while.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely great for us, going into the next game. So we have a bunch of confidence.
Good.
I love to hear you say that. Get used to it.
Yeah.
What did you guys talk about? I'm an O-lineman. I'm always going to lean that way. What did you guys talk about O-line room before the game about how you're going to approach this game and affect the outcome?
Well, I mean, a lot of us were just saying, man, we just need to dominate. I mean, that's what we did. And the good thing about it is, when we did do our job, we came back to the sideline and just we wanted more. We were hungry for it.
Yes.
And I feel like we did a good job with not being content with our job, with what we did. And I feel like that's why, the score was what it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve, walk me through, obviously you anticipated Oklahoma giving a bunch of different looks, right? And they do a multitude of things on defense. What was the approach going into it? Were you saying, hey, look, we're going to do a few things well and be able to block all the different fronts? Or you just say, hey, we're going to let it rip and carry a bunch into this game, on the offensive line?
Well, we knew coming into the game that we needed to run the ball. They love bringing a lot of blitzes, and that was our emphasis at practice. So, we got a lot of work at that, and I feel like, it helped us out a lot. But running the ball, I feel like that just needs to be our name as an offensive unit. So.
Well, I'm sure, Marshall, you're excited when you hear an offensive lineman say his favorite thing is make sure you run the ball. I'm sure that fires you up.
Oh yeah, I'm hungry for ribs right now.
Well, Steve, thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
so
It's
much.
been a
Thank
pleasure having you, and congratulations on
Congratulations.
that
Thank you.
win. When we get back, we've got another special guest for you.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime. And order online at daveshotchicken.com. Fort Worth Family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort Worth. Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Trapper Beefs. One upping.
I love Old Trapper. I love how tender it is. Don't forget the wood smoke flavor, savory beef, quality ingredients. I'm their biggest fan.
Old Trapper. What's your beef?
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime. And order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Welcome back into Frogs Today Live post-game show. Max Duggan here with us after the win over Oklahoma, 55-24. Max, we've been talking a lot about this culture here, and we actually called it a culture shock, the change that we've had and we've seen from you guys. How do you think this culture has impacted your 4-0 season so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I think just all the guys in the locker room are believing in each other, believing in the coaching staff, and just believing of what we're doing here and what we're building. So I think it showed today. So happy for everybody.
Max, you had an incredible day. Over 300 in the air, 100 on the ground. Going into this game, were you thinking like this is going to be more of a run-heavy game, or are you just taking what's there? Like how are you approaching it personally?
Yeah, we knew what Coach Venables can do as a coordinator and on defense, being exotic with pressures and coverages in the back end. So we just knew just kind of take what he gives us, whether it's quick game, getting the ball out, maybe it's in QB run game, things of that sort. We're just kind of seeing what they were going to kind of come out with us because I know they kind of played a little different during the year. But it was fun to see, through the air and on the ground of us being successful.
Did you, with all the looks that Oklahoma's given and Brent Venables over the years on defense, did you guys kind of scale back, what you carried into this game offensively, or would you say, hey, we're going to let it rip regardless, or do you have some safe stuff that you can block it against everything?
Yeah, I think we had some safe stuff, but I think Coach Riley did a great job of talking to us and creating that scheme of, we're going to be aggressive. That's our MO. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to really let other teams dictate what we do. Obviously, you got to understand what they do best and kind of scale to that way. But we knew we were going to be aggressive coming into this game. So,
yeah, Max. One of the things about being aggressive, I thought, it looked like the defensive plan. Obviously, with the way the running backs have been running up to this point, was to say, okay, we're going to let in any of that read run game, we're going to let Max Duggan try and beat us. Well, that paid off for you guys today and showed that what you can do, obviously, with your legs, not only breaking away and that kind of stuff, but the way you run and the toughness you bring. I know you're a humble guy, but I can tell you just from watching it, we've all talked about this, just the impact that has on your team and willing to have some grit, lower your shoulder, that kind of stuff. It just fired everybody up.
Yeah, hopefully, coaches might say to slide a little bit, but I think, taking a hit kind of gets the O-line going a little bit, gets the sideline pumped up. So I'll take a couple of hits for him every once in a while.
I pointed it out. I saw blood, and I was like, I love it. It was 41-17 at half. You guys go in, and the old adage,
Hub Fort Worth Family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort Worth.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth: Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Oklahoma defense, they throw so many different looks at you. We had Steve Avila in earlier, and he talked about how it's just so, your mentality is going to be, I don't care what they throw at us, I don't care what front, we're going to run the ball. It's a mentality, right? And that's going to fire you up as a running back, obviously. Oh, yeah. But how big is that to have that mentality and carry it no matter what they show you, you're going to run the football?
Really at running back, you got to have that mentality. You're going to get hit. It's we take, I think, probably the most contact on the field in and out every week. And so, really you just got to have that mentality. You're going to get hit, so you might as well, make the most of your attempt. So,
the thing I noticed from today, the whole team, was just the physicality, man. We took it to them. We were dogging them out at a certain point. How much do you take on yourself to kind of lead the way as far as the physicality and setting the tone in the game?
Really setting the tone, really when you get the ball and or I get the ball, I say, I just try to set the tone, really just, hitting the hole hard. Because, when they tackle me, I know it's defense, they tackle me, but I try to bring the bang most of the time, make them feel me for a couple plays. So, you keep pounding, the body gets tired. So, really just running the ball. We just got to keep staying efficient.
Yeah.
one thing I want to talk about, you talk about the running game and that mentality, but obviously, you've had success through the air as well. How big is it to have a group of running backs, including yourself, that takes pride in pass protection and, and really helping that offensive line out and your quarterback out in that part of your game as well?
I really think that's a big deal for the next level. Thinking about any type of NFL, you got to pass block. And so, having a good coach like Coach Jones to, just help us out in pass blocking and, just working it every day, I think it's a big part of the success we have in the field.
In my 11-year career, I saw a lot of running backs with a ton of potential. They wouldn't let on the field on third down because they couldn't pass block. So I appreciate just telling you that your mentality is there already. So I love it. I love to hear it.
And Kendra, I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked Steve earlier. Has it hit you yet that you beat Oklahoma?
I mean, not really. It'll probably set in later when, I'm chilling by myself. But, right now it's just like thinking about next week.
I love that. And one last thing before we go. I mean, the message after this game has been that you guys played clean and you played tough, and you were no exception to that. So congratulations on the win today and your incredible performance. And when we come back, we're going to have one more player, and then we're going to wrap it up.
The Hub Fort Worth family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort. Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth: Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Welcome back in to Frogs Today post-game live, 55-24 over Oklahoma for our Horned Frogs today. And we've had a lot of time to discuss this. So we want to maybe go ahead and talk about the rest of the Big 12. What are they up to right now?
Well, I think the big one for us right now is Kansas. And Kansas was up 14-0, although Iowa State just scored a 2-point conversion right before the half to make it 14-8 Kansas over Iowa State. If Kansas can hold on, now you're talking 2 undefeated teams.
Showdown.
I mean,
who'd have thunk it?
That's right. Let me find. I want to find the person that predicted this going into the year, that you'd have TCU and Kansas and undefeated in the middle of the season.
I mean, they were already clamoring for game day up in Lawrence, and if they go on to win,
deserving.
I think it's deserving as well.
Right.
I would also say, staying in that same state, Kansas State putting the hurt on Texas Tech, just continuing to prove that they belong. Transfer quarterback Adrian Martinez from Nebraska has a second life. They're looking very dangerous up there in Manhattan.
Absolutely. And you know what I did predict? Another K-State win this week.
Okay, all right. You're on the bandwagon.
I mean, I guess I'm on the K-State bandwagon. I mean, it must be a purple thing. The Wildcats.
That's right. And then the Texas, West Virginia's tonight, both 2-2. A couple of those guys are jockeying just to stay in the mix. Again, none of this was predictable going in.
Right.
But what an exciting time. I mean, for this thing here, I think some of us, as we said, predicted a win, and we thought that TCU could pull it out. But to do so in such dominating fashion, you go from the culture to the recruiting buzz that's going on right now, to the guys that they brought in, to the leadership, the player-led leadership, and to be undefeated right now. There's a lot of things working in TCU's favor.
Absolutely. You love to see it. I think the fans are responding. I think people are starting to believe. It takes some time when there's a new regime change, a lot of new things, a lot of new sounds, sights, the way things are done. But you start to see buy-in from the players, the staff, and now the fans. They're building something special here. Again, it's about winning. It's about being competitive. I think we're right there. the players that we just had on emphasized how much they want to continue to grow and stay the course, stay focused on their goal. They're 4-0, looking really, really good. We're not worried about rankings, but let's say we're got to have a few votes coming up this next week. One more score for you: Oklahoma State and Baylor, 16-3. Oklahoma State at halftime. Again, 2 ranked teams in the Big 12. This is a deep, deep league. We've talked about it before.
Absolutely.
You know, Coach corrected me. The expanded playoff is not happening for years, but if it was this year, you're looking at a Big 12 conference that's going to get multiple teams in. Unfortunately, it's just not there yet. This is a deep league, a lot of good teams, a lot of good programs.
Yeah, you said it time and time again, Marshall. This might be a situation where you get a couple lost team, into the Big 12 championship because it is so deep. And again, it's not deep in one of those years where like everyone's just okay.
Yeah.
There's just talent throughout the entire league, and it's gonna be fun to watch. I mean, heck, we're going into Kansas next week. Potentially 5-0 versus 4-0.
Yeah.
They've had 2 straight sellouts. I'm sure it'll be a third sellout
yeah.
there. I mean, they're going crazy, clamoring for football. They put the basketball away just for a little bit in the fall for the first time.
Right.
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah, and so it's going to be an absolute blast, and it's just fun to be along this ride and watch this. And the guys that we had on today, I just want to say before we close out, again, they just carry themselves so well. And that's time and time again, anyone who steps in front of the podium or an interview, just that leadership, you can see that, again, off the field, right?
So much maturity.
That's right. And when you have that off the field, you have a good football team on the field. Time and time again, things have proven out that way. So just a lot of fun to be around those guys. And you can see why they're winning football games.
And today, 55-24 win, in case you haven't heard it enough from us, over Oklahoma Sooners. We're going to close out this show, but be sure to stay tuned into everything going on at frogstoday.com this week. I know you want to see me on camera again. Monday, me and Coach Bowden, we're breaking down this game. We're going to give you the inside scoop on everything that happened. Talking Frogs, we've got a pregame show coming up. I mean, it's loaded.